slow down, slow down.
So when I was a sophomore in high school, I had this teacher who would only let the students in her class use the restroom one time per semester. Well, one day I raised my hand and I was like, excuse me, I don't remember her name, can I please use the restroom? And she was like, no you can't because you've already used the restroom in my class this semester. Well, excuse me, you can't dictate my bladder. So I'm like all frustrated and I started secretly texting my mom because I wasn't allowed to use my phone in class. And I was like, Mom, I'm sitting in class right now, my teacher won't let me use the restroom. And she was like, I'll take care of it for you. And I was like, okay. So like 5 minutes goes by and all of a sudden my teacher's phone starts ringing and she walks up to it and answers it and she's like, hello? Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then she walks up to me like so angry and she like slams the pass on my desk and she was like, since you have to go that bad. And I was like, yeah, I really do, thanks. And I got up and left. I didn't even have to go to the bathroom. It was just the principle of it. I just roamed the halls.
This girl literally lived a nightmare. A 17-year-old girl was watching TV late at night when her motion detector lights in her driveway suddenly went on. She assumed it was just an animal, so she got up, drew the blinds, and went back to watching TV. Then a little bit later, it happened again. Before she could even react, she looks over and clearly makes out a silhouette of a person right behind the blinds who starts banging aggressively on the window. The girl stands up and goes, I'm gonna call the cops! And the figure stops for just a second, sprints to the side door and starts pounding even louder on that, screaming incoherently. The girl runs to the bathroom, barricades herself inside while she waits for the police, and then her worst nightmares come true. She hears glass shatter in the other room. After a few minutes of silence, she opens her door just a crack to get a peek outside, and standing in her living room next to a broken window is some crazy old woman who looks over at her and starts sprinting toward her. The lady comes smashing into the door and starts wailing on it until the police arrive and take her away. She was a lunatic who had escaped her facility. This is what they meant when they said, don't talk to strangers. In the early 1900s, a 10-year-old boy was playing in the woods when a tall man appeared and asked if he wanted to come back to his cabin for dinner. Totally caught off guard, the boy reluctantly agrees and begins walking. When they get to the cabin, the boy is relieved when he sees Paul, a family friend, sitting on the porch, so the boy happily goes inside. After they eat, the boy says thank you to the strange tall man, says bye to Paul, and then he leaves. He had only walked a few steps when he sees his family, along with Paul, running up the path towards him, frantically asking if he was okay. Confused, the boy says, I'm just fine, and he looks at Paul and he's like, why didn't you tell them I was with you at the cabin? And he points over his shoulder. Paul glances over the boy's shoulder and then narrows his eyes and says, you were kidnapped by a cult 3 days ago. No one's seen you. Terrified, the boy turns around to look at the cabin he just came from, and it's gone. All he sees is a dark forest that stretches for miles. This is why you should always trust your gut. In the 1970s, a young couple decided to go for a late-night hike in the woods. A couple minutes into their walk, and the man remembers thinking, something's not right. He tells his girlfriend, but they just decide to ignore it and keep going, until he steps on something that felt really soft, like it was alive. Before he has a chance to see what he stepped on, they hear all this rustling in the bushes next to them, and they bolt. Years later, that couple turns on the TV, and a death row inmate who's about to be executed is being interviewed. And they ask him, was there ever a time that you were almost caught red-handed? He responded, yes, one time. I was in the woods, and a couple walked through, and the man actually stepped on the body of a girl I had just killed. I was hiding in the bushes just a few feet away. They didn't see me. That couple had run into one of the worst serial killers of all time, Ted Bundy.
Just found out I leaked my own nudes. Story time. So about a month ago, my manager came over and she took me to the side and she was like, I don't want to alarm you, but I've dealt with it. There was a man threatening to leak indecent images of you if you don't send him more. Huh? She said, yeah. He has pictures of your jubblies. Excuse me, I have the chest of a 12-year-old boy. There is nothing to capture. It's just bone. I don't take pictures of that. Ever. Like, I'd understand if I had double D's, but baby, I've got minus A's. So I said, thank you for dealing with a cheeky bit of blackmail in my business email, but he's lying. Let's move forward. So I forgot about it. And then today, I'm uploading a YouTube video, and I haven't checked my channel in ages. What do I see when I check it? Ads limited due to nudity on one of my vlogs. Which vlog is it, you might ask?
I'll vlog getting my nips pierced.
I need to take a class on how to blur correctly. my itty bitty titty committees on the internet. If you're about to check, please subscribe. And also, I'm sorry in advance. If yours are small, it might make you feel better.
Extremely toxic best friend story time. So when I was in 8th grade, there was this boy. And this boy would go around telling almost every girl that he liked her. And I was one of those girls. And he would do stuff with all of us. And there were like 11 of us. So we all hated each other. Especially this one girl, and we're gonna call her Abby. And every time we saw each other, we would be super mean to each other. Well, a year passed, we stopped talking to this kid, and I bumped into her at homecoming and basically apologized. So after that, we became best friends. And everything was good until every time I told her about a guy, she would start talking to them. Like this one boy that I was Snapchatting and talking to, she accidentally sent nudes to him and said, "Oh, sorry, I meant to send them to my boyfriend." So then she called one of my other best friends and said, "No, it actually wasn't an accident." And of course he told me because he was my best friend. So I was like, whatever, and stopped talking to the boy. And she did it again, like for part 2.
My daughter Savannah is the CEO of faking illness to get out of school. So when she does not feel like being there, she will go to the nurse's office and complain to them that she is really not feeling good so that they call me and I have to go get her. Well, one day after this happens, I walk into the administrative office and everybody is really concerned because Savannah is sitting in a chair like so dramatically like, "Hi, Mom." And like when I saw her, I burst out laughing. I was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And everybody looked at me like I was some really bad mom. Like, "Oh my God, why aren't you more concerned?" But as we were walking out, she was walking really slow and actually didn't look good. So even I was a little concerned. I was like, "Oh my God, honey, are you okay?" Until we got to the car when Savannah looks at me and goes, "You know what, Mom? I feel better now." And I was like, "Savannah, are you serious?" And she's like, "Mom, do you maybe want to go to Starbucks and have like a girls' day?" And I was like, "Honey, what kind of question is that?" You know I do.
In high school, I had a friend who lived in this old, small apartment building. And on the first floor was this old guy named Dave who had apparently lived in the building forever. And no one really knew what Dave's deal was. The only time people saw him is when he walked outside to walk his tiny dog. But other than that, he never left his apartment. He had a nephew who delivered him groceries once a week. My friend just assumed that Dave was too old or had some sort of sickness that prevented him from leaving the house. One day, my friend was coming home from school and Dave's nephew was leaving the apartment building. And my friend is really sweet, so she was like, "Hey, I know Dave sometimes has troubles getting out of the house, so if you ever need me to go over there and bring him something, let me know. I'm always happy to help." And the nephew looked really shocked and terrified. He was like, "No, you should never go over to Dave's ever." And then he got really awkward and he was like, "Okay, gotta go, bye." And then a few weeks later, my friend was coming home from a Halloween party late at night. And when she got inside her apartment building, Dave's door on the first floor was wide open. And it was pitch black inside his apartment. But then she heard something behind her.
This is why you should be careful what you put in the mail. In 2015, a man was asked by his neighbor to collect his mail while he was gone for a few weeks. A few days later, a large package arrives on his neighbor's front porch. The man can barely lift it, but gets over to his garage where he accidentally drops it and hears something break inside. Hoping his neighbor would think the damage occurred en route, he closes his squeaky garage door and forgets about it. But over the next couple of days, whatever was in that package started to smell so bad that he decides to open it up. Inside were two very important finds: his neighbor, who was dead, and a camera that was still recording. The police bring the man in for questioning and show him what was on the camera inside the box. It starts with his neighbor talking to the camera about how excited he is to mail himself home for his YouTube channel. Then, police fast forward to the very end where they see that the neighbor is now sleeping in the box, and then suddenly gets dropped and you hear a crack, and that's his neck breaking. And then you hear a squeaky garage door close. Yes, this really did happen. In 2015, a man woke up to a strange post-it note sitting on his desk. On it was a to-do list that he didn't recognize in handwriting that didn't look like his. Since he was up late the night before doing some work, he assumed he must have written out the list when he was half asleep and kind of forgot about it, so he just crumples it up and throws it away. 2 weeks later, he wakes up to dozens of these post-it notes all over his wall, and they're all blank except for one that, in the same weird handwriting, says, "Our landlord isn't letting me talk to you." Now feeling totally freaked out that some crazy person is crawling around his apartment at night, he starts looking for signs of a break-in, but there aren't any. Instead of calling the police, he shares his experience on Reddit asking for help, and one user's comment literally saves his life. Turns out the man was writing the notes to himself and then forgetting, because his brain was slowly dying due to a carbon monoxide leak that was only discovered because a user suggested he install a detector.
My brother used to be obsessed with Call of Duty, COD 4. When he was like 12 years old, he had the headset and everything. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard someone play COD 4, but it kind of sounds like this. Get him. Get that mother. Go now. Yeah. You missed the fucking guy. God. So it's a super wholesome game, but to annoy my brother, I used to sit next to him and watch him while he played. And one day he was playing with someone who had the username Little Pickle. And at the time I was 10 years old and I really liked that username. I thought it was cute. So I changed all my usernames, AOL, email, Club Penguin, to Little Pickle. And then somehow my dad found out that I did that. And he thought Little Pickle was a really cute name too, so he started calling me that. And my brother for some reason didn't realize or didn't know. But my dad kept calling me Little Pickle for years, and then it caught on, so my friends started calling me Little Pickle. When I graduated college, my parents made a sign that said, "Congratulations, Little Pickle." Then one day last year, my brother was like, "It's weird that people call you Little Pickle." And I was like, "Why is it weird?" He was like, "I remember there used to be this super creepy kid on COD 4 who only ever talked about his penis, and he called it his little pickle. All he talked about was his dick." So now I'm 25 and people still call me Little Pickle. Meanwhile, there's some sketchy video gamer out there also calling his penis a little pickle, so.
This is one of the biggest lies I ever told to get myself out of trouble. So back in high school, I used to run on the cross country team, but by no means was I competitive or athletic at all. I was honestly just there for the social aspect of it. All throughout my freshman year of high school, I would literally run to Cold Stone Creamery to get ice cream and bring it back to everyone on my bus. I don't know if that tells you what kind of athlete I was, but yeah. Somehow I still didn't get caught for doing this stuff, and by later in high school, my friends and I decided to pretty much never go. I mean, we would show up to practice, but we would wait until everyone was ahead of us and then turn the opposite direction and sprint to Starbucks. We literally did this almost every single day. And then we would call cute boys from other schools to come meet us over there. We would literally get coffee with them, go shopping, and then once we saw the team getting close again, we would just run back to school and pretend like we did the workout. Until one day, I was called down to the principals. They said it had to do with my cross-country attendance. Follow, share, and I'll tell you what happened next. This is the story about how I met my wife. It all started out when I was dating this guy for about 10 months, when I found out that I was pregnant with his baby. We can call this guy Lucas for this story. Well, not too long after this, my roommate actually saw Lucas with another girl. I was completely stunned, but my roommate did some research and found this girl on Instagram. I decided to reach out to her through DM, and we ended up meeting up for coffee. During this, I found out that they had been in a relationship for 7 years, and not only that, they had a 5-year-old together. Also, for this story, we'll call her Lily. So Lucas had told Lily and I that he was over at his friend's house today. We knew that we were going to have to go there to confront him, so that's what we did. The second we got there, he was mortified, as he should be. And his friend ended up even taking our side and kicking him out of the house. What happens next makes this story absolutely amazing, so if you want to hear it, like, follow, share, and add me on Instagram. Hi guys, and welcome back to part 2 of Finding My Wife. So not too long after this, it was getting pretty close to me having my baby. And with going into this phase of life being a single mom, my parents really disapproved. My relationship with them got so toxic that I had to move out. So Lily invited me to live with her. We got along so well, and it was almost like we were both raising her 5-year-old together. And then we ended up catching feelings for each other. So we started to date and then eventually got married. It's honestly so crazy thinking that someone cheated on the two of us and it ended up bringing us together. Now we're raising an adorable little family. This is probably one of my favorite stories from a follower, so if you have a story, please follow me and DM me on Instagram. So this is a story time about my mom sleeping with my crush. So my brother was on this football team in my local town, and one of his friends on the team was so cute, and I instantly had a thing for him. On top of that, we just vibed really, really well. I would also like you guys to keep in mind that my mom is the manager of their football team. Anyways, we started talking and everything was going pretty well. That is, until my 18th birthday. He kissed me, and then he kissed my best friend right in front of me, which really upset me. I just ended up leaving and going to bed, but he ended up staying. I got this weird suspicion that maybe this wasn't the first time, and I was finding little clues along the house too. So that's when I decided to be a super sleuth and, well, I checked some of his text messages. And that's when I found messages between him and my mom. Share, follow, and add me on Instagram, and I'll tell you guys what happened next. Hey guys, and welcome back to part 2 of my mom sleeping with my crush. So, reading the text messages, it was beyond obvious. My mom was aware that I had a crush on him too. I had told her on multiple occasions, and she even knew that we were talking. I knew that I was gonna have to confront her because this was so beyond messed up. She even knew that he had kissed me. So I sat down to confront her, and do you guys know what she did? She straight up denied it. Like, I saw the text messages and everything, but for some reason she just couldn't own up to it. And it's not like she just denied it once, like she denied it for months. Months after though, she eventually came clean. The moral of the story is that parents can be toxic too, so learn how to become better than them. Always remember how much I love you guys, and if you have a story, follow me and DM me on Instagram. We're starting off spooky season early with this dating horror story. So when I was 19, I went out on a date with this guy that I met on Tinder. I swear all scary dating stories start out with Tinder. We'll call him Sam. So Sam and I decided to get coffee and we hit it off pretty well. But we did make the connection that he lived about 6 blocks from me. Keep this in mind. We decided to continue and do a second date. Things got a lot weirder. During this, he asked me several questions about a girl that we'll call Mandy Smith. She was my best friend. I was entirely creeped out about how he knew a lot about her and her last name. This set off my spidey senses, so I just acted like I didn't know her. We dated for about 3 months, and he overcrossed some boundaries when it came to personal privacy a few times, but nothing was really too bad. That was until the day that my friend Mandy went missing. Sam and I were together when it came on the news. I was upset and crying over my friend, and he just looked at me and was like, "I thought you didn't know her." I said I lied because I thought it was suspicious. And he literally started yelling at me over this, and it turned into a full-out argument. My parents and I then decided to do some research. Share and add me on Instagram for part 2. This is part 2 of my dating horror story. My parents and I searched his image on Google, and it came up with so many different Instagram and so many different Facebook accounts. They all had different names like Peter and Noah and Kevin and James. I had no idea who this man even was, so we decided to do some more investigating. We ended up getting the police involved, and we found out this man had a criminal record. Been watched for a while for the potential killing of his 2 ex-girlfriends. They said because he lived so close to me, I could have been his next victim. They told me originally that he was 18, but under police records, he was 23. I ended up helping out with his investigation process, and he's now in jail for the murder of his ex-girlfriends. And now he's about to be tried for my missing friend as well. The moral of the story is to please, please, please background search people before you go out with them. I love you guys, and I hope you all stay safe. And if you have a story that you'd like to share, follow me on Instagram and DM me.